What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another War Within video. Hope you're all doing very, very well. We're going to look at Resto Shaman and we're going to revisit a build that I did months and months ago now that became pretty popular. One of my more popular videos, to be honest, which was this Resto Shaman passive healing build. And it was kind of something at the time where I think this was like in season 3 or something. I did like a plus 22 Throne of Tides on it. It's before all the reworks to the dungeons and stuff, but it was able to handle actually very, very challenging content. And I had people, when I initially brought up this build, there were some people who were like kind of naysayers, like, you can't do this build is garbage. But I kind of proved that you could, and I want to bring that build into the War Within and show you guys how a more passive healing setup can actually work in the War Within if you really enjoyed that style. So what does this even mean? What is a passive healing style before we get to the hero tree or anything like that? Well, first of all, there's kind of 4 major components that you're looking at when it comes to what you're going to be maintaining for your passive bonuses. Okay, so number 1, you got to make sure that you have your healing rain down all the time. This is the first component. It's going to be healing people over time. It also adds a very important buff to allies, which is the deluge buff, which says that healing wave and healing surge and chain heal are more effective when targets are affected by either healing rain or riptide. So we're going to have healing rain or riptide on people all the time. So healing rain is the first component. The second component is to make sure that you're riptiding people all the time. The third component is to make sure that you have healing stream totem down at all times, at least 1. You're going to have 2 charges of it. And then the fourth and last thing is not an active ability, but it's the passive talents of Earth Living Weapon, which got dramatically reworked actually in the War Within. So Earth Living does a lot of more healing now than it used to. It actually got buffed by about 75% last patch. I think it was like last Tuesday. So it does a lot more healing now. And the actual improved Earth Living Weapon gives you more healing on targets when they're lower, because it benefits more from your mastery, which is the deep healing. Your deep healing, of course, makes you heal people for more the lower they are. So Earth Living will start to contribute a lot more healing the lower that an ally gets, which is really good. So that's the 4 components there. It's literally the top 3 talents here. Keep healing rain down, keep riptide up, keep healing stream down, and your Earth Living is going to do stuff at the same time. It's going to do a lot of passive healing, which is super good. Of course, there's other things like always keep refreshing your Earth shields on the tank and on you. But when we're talking about how to make this build work, all you really have to worry about is those spells that I mentioned. Keep your healing rain down, keep at least 1 healing stream totem down, and then keep riptiding. Riptide, riptide, riptide. Couple things there, of course. Deluge also applies if you have riptide on a target, so that's really important to get that healing bonus. And then, of course, there's tidal waves, which is the passive bonus that you get whenever you do cast riptide. Gets you 2 stacks of tidal waves. It reduces the cast time of your next healing wave or chain heal, or increases the critical strike chance of your next healing surge. It basically guarantees that you're going to get a healing surge crit, and it reduces the cast time of the other spells. So if I go riptide, healing wave, and then I'm going to put this down, get my healing stream down, and then I'm going to go riptide again, and then I'm going to spend it on healing surge this time. Big crit. I actually didn't get a crit. That's kind of terrible. Riptide again. You want to be weaving riptides in between your other spells. Riptide, you can see I'm maintaining tidal surge. There's a fast chain heal. That's the cast time reduction. Plus I have Tidebringer, but let's see without the cast time reduction. There's an Ascendance proc. There's chain heal without a Tidebringer proc, by the way. It's very fast. It's still very, very fast, which is good. Now, again, you're not going to be spamming chain heal. That's going to drain your mana. That's the point of this build. You don't spam a lot of chain heal. But as you just saw, because you're pressing Riptide so often, you're going to trigger Deeply Rooted very, very frequently, okay? What you want to do with this build is maintain these spells that I'm talking about: Healing Rain, Riptide, and Healing Stream Totem. Maintain these 3 spells at all times, and then when you really need to pump a lot of healing, you're going to layer on top of these spells, You're going to throw Ancestral Guidance. You're going to throw Ascendance. You're going to put a Spirit Link Totem down. You're going to throw a Healing Tide Totem. You're going to put another big cooldown on top of all your passive healing that's going on to really bump it up in a moment of need. When you really, really need to heal a bunch of people very quickly, you have the passive stuff going in the background, and then you go boom, and you smack another big cooldown on top of that. Now, speaking of cooldowns, your healing, a Mana Tide Totem, sorry, has changed. This Spearwalker's Tidal Totem buff used to apply to Chain Heal. It applies to Healing Surge now. So it's a really big bump to your Healing Surge, okay? So, again, you drop Healing Rain, have Riptide on people to get the Deluge effect, and then you can drop Mana Tide Totem, and then it's just like, you can instantly, boom, hit them with a huge heal. 1, 2, 3. Those are 3 Healing Surges that I just crit for 2 million on each one. Now, part of that was because I also had my Tidal Waves buffs up. So make sure if you drop this cooldown now, get your Tidal Waves up by pressing Riptide. It's going to increase the critical effect chance of your Healing Surge. And then your next 3 Healing Surges are going to be massive. If they do crit, they're going to end up critting for 2 million like you just saw right there. So that's one big healing cooldown that you can drop. But again, keep your passive stuff going. Drop your cooldowns in big moments of need. The last thing I'm going to talk about quickly is that the Farseer hero tree is what we're going to pair together with this passive tree that I've kind of worked out here. Now, there's one talent at the bottom of the tree that you can basically choose to pick. You can either have reactive warding if you want, or you can pick something else. I'll just say before I get to the Farseer stuff really quickly, you don't really need to pick any other like Riptide bonuses, like Wave Speaker's Blessing is not necessary here. Why? Because you get so many Riptide casts already that you don't need to improve the duration of them. You're going to be casting Riptide all the time. A big part of that is the extra bonus you get from Farseer, which gives you 1 additional charge of Riptide. So you have 3 instead of 2. So you don't need duration on Riptide, in my opinion, and you don't need Primal Tidal Core because, again, you're casting it all the time. You're going to have crazy uptime on your Riptides without even needing to get an extra free one from Primal Tidal Core. That might be really good in raid. So you have 1 talent point here to play around with. I think you could go into Downpour. You could go to Reactive Warding, which just got buffed. You could go into Earth and Wall Totem if you want to get an additional passive bonus. Earth and Wall is pretty cool. You could get 1 point into Chain Heal with Ancestral Reach if you wanted to. Or you could go like Ancestral Awakening to get a little bit more passive healing as well. It's really up to you what you want to do with this last point. I think the rest of these points at the bottom of this tree are mandatory, and I've chosen to spend the bulk of my points in the middle of the tree. Things like Spearwalker's Tidal Totem, things like extra cooldown reduction on Healing Tide Totem. I think this is almost mandatory now. This is a really good talent. The big Riptide talents that I do have, of course, they've consolidated into one. Torrent is here. 20% more initial heal on Riptide and 10% increased critical strike chance. Huge talent. You have to take Torrent. And then, as I said, with Farseer now, I'm going to take Unleash Life, and I'm going to get Ancestral Swiftness, and that's going to get me 2 Ancestors. Now, this is really important to understand. You can basically have permanent uptime on an Ancestor. 16 seconds is the duration of your Ancestor if you have Unleash Life. That's gonna, and then you're gonna press Ancestral Swiftness, and you're gonna have 2 of these guys. So again, you put out your Healing Rain, your Healing Stream Totem, sorry, get your Riptides going, and then a big moment of damage comes in. You're like, oh no, okay, I'm gonna go big here. I'm gonna go Ancestor with Unleash Life, Ancestral Swiftness, and then boom, I'm gonna press Chain Heal, or I'm gonna press another Chain Heal. They're gonna copy me. I'm gonna cast Riptide. They're gonna cast Healing Surge. Riptide, Healing Surge, Riptide. Oh, there's another Ascendance. I'm gonna keep casting spells. I'm gonna get another one out, and then anytime I cast a single target healing spell like Riptide or Healing Surge or Healing Wave, they're going to cast a single target healing spell as well. They're going to copy my healing. So again, more passive healing on top of what I already have. And whenever they expire, they're going to put a Hydro Bubble on me or a nearby ally. I don't know who they just threw it on. They threw it on somebody random. The Hydro Bubble is even more passive healing that starts out at about 400k and then it goes down, and it's going to go up with your intellect, of course. But these guys are the perfect combination to have more passive healing go on. Whenever you cast Healing Stream Totem, they'll cast a Chain Heal. Whenever you cast Healing Tide Totem, they'll cast a Chain Heal as well. Very, very, very cool. So, and of course, if you cast chain heals, they'll cast chain heals. So what you want to do is have the passive healing going on in the background, healing stream, riptide, healing rain, and then use your ancestors as a huge healing moment where if you really, really need to keep people alive, you can summon both your ancestors and then just slap people with big healing with big healing surges for single target, or big healing chain heals for like AoE, whatever you want to do in the moment. Your ancestors will help you get the job done. Okay, very, very cool combo there. So that's the basic overview of what the build is in a nutshell. It hasn't really changed that much. All you're doing now is adding in some ancestors to help do even more passive healing in the background when you really need it, in those moments when you're absolutely dying. But the baseline idea of what you're doing here, guys, is the exact same. You want to layer
that wasn't too hard.
Your healing, your passive healing over time, and then you want to put a big cooldown on top of it. Something like Healing Tide, Spiritling. AG and Ascendants are going to copy all of your healing, of course, just like your ancestors do. So Ascendants is basically the best cooldown for sure, or Ancestral Guidance, but Ancestral Guidance kind of got nerfed a little bit. So I think Ascendants is the new best cooldown. Ascendants is a 2-minute cooldown if you take the talent that makes it a 2-minute cooldown. That is a huge deal, and it means you can get way more uptime on Ascendants in your key, besides just having your deeply rooted procs, of course. Here's a moment where I pop Ascendants right here, and then I get my ancestors out. You can see I've got 2 of them. They're copying my healing. I'm doing big chain heals just to heal in this really difficult moment. And then the rest of my healing over time is getting people back up. We're ticking people back up. So that's kind of how that can work. That's how it can look in a difficult moment. This is a +7 key on the beta, which is pretty difficult. It's like doing a +17 in the new kind of in the new setup. But yeah, guys, this build is alive and well in the War Within. There's really nothing too different going on, except that you're going to be summoning ancestors to do even more passive healing in the background with whatever they're copying of your spells. And then whenever they die, they get a Hydro Bubble to an ally. There's a lot of really cool passive healing going on in the background. You really do not have to focus on chain heal as much with this build. It focuses a lot more on just pressing Riptide over and over and over again. And again, you just layer other cooldowns on top, and now you can layer the ancestors on top of everything. The uptime on the ancestors is insane. It's every 30 seconds. You're going to have 2 of them. With the talents that I've chosen to take in the talent tree, whenever you press Unleash Life, you're going to get an ancestor for 16 seconds. So again, more just passive in the background. He's always there, helping you out, healing people, which is really, really cool. It's an awesome feeling, and it works very well. I've tried it in some very difficult keys. I've done +10s on the beta so far. That's the highest key I've done, is a +10, but I've healed a +10 with this build, and it works just fine. Again, there are going to be really difficult moments where you might have to press chain heal a couple of times with your Tidebringer buff. You might have to pop a cooldown, but that's just how everything goes, right? But at a baseline level, you do have all those spells ticking everybody in the background. And I love this style. It does not require you to think at all about Cloudburst Totem or what you want to be doing with a Cloudburst and when to time it perfectly and what other spells you want to throw into your Cloudburst to make sure that it hits really, really hard. You don't have to worry about any of that at all. You can do that. There's a good build that has Cloudburst in it, but you can also just have this where you have 3 totems just absolutely smacking everybody on your team. And you still have Totemic Recall to bring back your Healing Stream Totem as well. And it just works very, very well. Healing Stream Totem, just a quick note about that. They kind of changed the way that it functions with Living Stream. It used to be that it ramped up over time and it did the most amount of healing at the end of its life cycle, Healing Stream Totem. But now they've made it so that Healing Stream Totem does the most healing at the beginning of its life cycle. It does more healing at the beginning and then it decays over time as it starts to fizzle out. That is a much better design for Healing Stream Totem, because typically when you're dropping your Healing Stream Totems, you want them to be healing people right away. You're dropping them because you need healing right away. That's the purpose of it. So if it ramps up over time, by the time it gets to the end of its life, you might not even need the healing anymore. But now it does the bulk of its healing at the beginning when you summon it. And that's very, very, very good. So this is the tree that I've decided to go with, guys. I think there's a couple of flex talents here. Something like the Reactive Warding, which I moved over to Ancestral Awakening. You could do that. You could put the Ancestral Awakening talent somewhere else. You could put it onto Wave Speaker's Blessing, if you, I don't think Wave Speaker's Blessing is needed. I think you could go into Downpour if you wanted to. You could go into Primal Tidal Core if you really thought so. You could get Earthwall Totem. You could get 1 extra target with Ancestral Reach on your Chain Heal. That's also a very good talent to take for when you do have to press Chain Heal. So there's lots of options for what you want to do with your build there. But I think the core of what I've got here with the Ancestor Tree is going to provide a ton of healing over time with these 3 core spells at the top, and then Earth Living is getting people as well. And then when you've got the healing going on in the background, you're just gonna layer the extra cooldowns on top. Healing Tide Totem, Mana Tide Totem, Spirit Link, what else did I have there? Oh, Ancestral Guidance, Ascendance, right? 2-minute Ascendance. You've got like 4 or 5 options that you can really use to layer on top to make sure that everybody stays alive. So it's a lot of fun. I think it works very well. If you do not like Cloudburst Totem, if you want a more passive healing build over time, this is the build for you. I promise it's going to perform very, very well. I will copy the talent loadout and put it in the description down below so you can just copy it into your game, okay? Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one.